This video is for entertainment purposes only. None of the information you're about to hear should be considered medical advice, and you should always consult a licensed medical practitioner before embarking on a health or lifestyle change. And today we're here with Kendra from Consume the Goodness, as you can see. Excited about this one. We've obviously been, part of the same community for quite a while now, so I just wanted to have you on the podcast here just to sort of find out what Kendra's all about. How you got to where you are health wise, and how you started your channel, and sort of what the future is holding for your journey, kind of thing. So why don't we just start there, and then we can see where the conversation goes.
Okay. Oh, wait, which part am I starting at?
Well, let's just start with, what sort of brought you to doing what you're doing. Like, I know you're not specifically on YouTube, you're not sort of branded as a keto kind of content kind of thing. It's a lot centered around motivation and inspiration and all that. But sort of just go over, what brought you to wanting to do something like that on YouTube.
Well, so starting the channel, I guess the eating this way, I decided to share the food stuff just because it's so helpful. And I feel like a lot of people, at least as far as the food part goes, what I have been told by a lot of people is that it's really hard to do. It's like boring or not a lot, food wise, not a lot of options, really hard to do if you have a family. So that's why I put the food stuff in my shorts. And just that it's so helpful. But the thing that got me starting the channel is actually just mostly answered prayer, I guess. Years ago, I just kept praying, like, what am I supposed to do? And I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something. We all have some type of purpose, and I just didn't feel like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And then it just was really heavy on my heart to do, just to share, like encouragement, and just to try to mix it in with what I get from the Bible and mix that with life and the challenges that we all face all the time. And there are just so many connections between those two things and analogies and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I started the channel. And then yeah, just the adding the food part into it is like in my shorts is mostly because I know that it's just so helpful for people, and it's not as limited, I guess. A lot of people feel like it's very like restricted, and it's not sustainable. There's no way you can do this long term, and you can't do it as a family. You have to eat totally separate from what everybody else is eating. So that's why I like to put the way that we eat in our family on those shorts, because it is sustainable, and it is possible to keep your carbs low even when you have kids. Our youngest is 9, and we've been eating this way for the past 2 years, I think. So not too long, but still with pretty young kids. And everybody's fine. We just kind of eased into it, and that's just how we all eat now. Everything's so much better health wise.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a benefit if you can start with kids younger to sort of show them that there is a way to, we all know, like, I've got young grandkids and that too. So they're a lot of times they're going to want to eat what they want to eat. Right.
Yeah.
But if you can sort of lead by example and offer, like you say, those healthier options that aren't, boring, and you're right. I think a lot of people do look at a low carb lifestyle as a very restrictive kind of diet, but there's lots of options out there. And, looking at your shorts, you can definitely see that you definitely like to experiment. It certainly seems like you're always trying new things, which I think is great. And like you say, I think that's important with the younger younger kids to make sure that there's always some variety in their diet.
Yeah, just to show them that, like, on birthdays, we still have cake, and I've made ice cream before, and which I want to try the mason jar ice cream. I haven't tried that yet. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, that was off track as usual. Sorry. I suck at staying on track. But yeah, just to show them that, like, if you want snack type of stuff, so we'll do the onion rings with, put cheese in the little donut
Mm-hmm.
thing, and um, just so, just to show that no matter what it is, that if you're even craving something, you want snack stuff, you want something sweet, you want a family dinner, holidays, there's a way to do all of it. You just swap some ingredients. I think it's all about how you look at it. If in your head you're thinking, this is so hard, this is such a hard thing to do, then it's going to be really hard and challenging. But if you look at it like, I just need to swap that flour for some almond flour, or I'll use cream cheese instead of, whatever something else might be, then it,
Mm-hmm.
it just makes it a little easier. But I think the mindset is the biggest part. It was, I'm trying to think. It was years ago that my mom and my oldest sister were like, just because of the medical conditions that I have, and they started finding out about keto and things like that. They started watching Dr. Berg's YouTube channel and stuff, and they were like, "You've got to try this. Just at least try to eat this way and see what happens." And
Mm-hmm.
with the schooling that I had, which tells you, what, like, standard American diet, food pyramid, you need to have lots of whole grains, very little fat, and like a small to medium amount of protein, that type of way of eating. That's how I was taught to become certified and all these different things. So I was so, like, uh, when they would tell me these things, I'm like, no, I can't do that. I have to have carbs for energy. I have to have these things for the nutrients and all this. I was just so, where I thought I was really educated, I wasn't as educated as, I just felt like I went to school for this. I learned this stuff. I'm certified in these things, so I'm educated on it. And oh my gosh, I was just so wrong. Um, but I was very much that person who's like, no, it's all about, calorie deficit, don't eat a lot of fat, and, whole grains, all these different things, which I know we can get nutrients from those things, but it's still doing some damage. And so yeah, I had to eat some humble pie or whatever they say. And I really, my health getting to a point where I was like, I don't think I'm going to be alive very much longer. That is when I finally started eating this way, because I could feel my health was the worst it had ever been. I could feel my heart struggling. Like I was really preparing, like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be around. Got to prepare. I was like writing notes to my husband for my kids and everything. And some people that I went to Bible, that I was doing an online Bible study with, they were like, we know this lady, and she teaches people about eating keto, so just, like, let us help you. And I was like, okay, yeah, even though before that I was so against cutting stuff out and whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm so desperate, like, I don't want to die, so yeah, I'll try anything. And I'm so glad that I did. I'm really glad. I mean, the way she taught me was very, uh, only eat these things. It wasn't very relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I listened to my body a lot. Like, she was like, don't do carnivore, it's horrible. But my body, like, I'm just very in tune with my body, I guess. I don't know. So I could feel myself going more towards mostly meat and fat. And I felt better with that. And I know she was more like, no, you need to have like tons of vegetables. And I even thought I was crazy. I don't know if you've experienced this, but when I eat a lot of vegetables, even the, keto vegetables, it still makes me, like, feel, I still get some inflammation and stuff. I thought there was something wrong with me. Like, what? It's vegetables. Who feels
Mm-hmm.
bad from eating vegetables? And then I started watching Dr. Ken Berry's videos, and I was like, oh, it is possible that some people they just do better with mostly meat, not a lot of vegetables. And I'm apparently one of those people. Do vegetables do that type of stuff for you?
Well, n- Not really, but I am the same way. Ultimately, I feel better if I'm just concentrating on protein and fats. Like if
Yeah.
I'm not against having a salad once in a while, and if Sunday dinner we're making steak or whatever, then I'll have some vegetables with it. Obviously, it's lower carb vegetables,
Mm.
but yeah, I feel sort of the same way, and that's there were some messages out there earlier on from certain influencers, I guess, that were all like, oh well, yeah, you want to eat your protein and fat, but then you want to eat all these vegetables too. It's like, well, okay, well, I don't want to eat that much of something that doesn't really make me feel any better. Like, it doesn't make me
Yeah.
feel didn't make me feel worse. It just didn't seem to really help, right?
Yeah.
So
Like there's nothing in your
yeah.
body that's like, I'm like, sometimes you can really feel your body lacking something. Like,
Mhm.
there are times which have a history of being super anemic. I don't know if that's part of the medical conditions that I have, if that's common, but I would be like, I need some type of meat. Like I need a steak or some hamburger or something. I think that
Mhm.
was just my body telling me like, you're lacking this, you need it really badly. And I don't ever feel like that when I don't eat a lot of vegetables. I'm never like, oh, I'm missing some type of nutrient. I feel really I feel good. I feel better when I eat
Yeah.
mostly just meat. And as much as I love cheese, if I eat a lot of it, that also does the same thing that vegetables do. It just makes me feel like bloated and inflamed, which sucks.
Mhm.
I love cheese. Cheese makes everything better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think the important part or the important thing to take away from that though is that we all have, everybody reacts to things differently.
Oh yeah.
There's lots of people that can eat lots of vegetables as long as they're lower carb and as long as they have a sufficient amount of protein and fat to go along with it, then they feel just fine. There's lots of people that can eat lots of cheese. It doesn't bother them at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
I'm one that it's I still struggle with it, but like even nuts and nut butters, that
Yes.
that is a killer for me.
I know. Especially
um
almonds, but
yeah.
macadamia nuts, I love them. I love them so
Mhm.
much, and it's hard to stop. So when
Yeah.
we get them, it's like it, it's so hard. It's a good one, not tons of carbs and all that kind of stuff, but still, if you have too much,
Yeah.
then yeah,
Yeah, but I think it's important that, you know, as you learn how to do things like this, is just to do exactly what you said, is listen to what your body's telling you, right?
yeah, and that's
If
a.
you
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
if you're eating a certain thing and you find yourself bloated and, not feeling your best, well, unfortunately, we've all had those things that, like cheese and like nuts and stuff like that, where like, oh,
I
well,
know.
I want to live off this, but I just don't feel my best. So,
Yep.
maybe it's better that you try and avoid it as much as you can. We can
Yeah.
never be perfect, but
hmm
it's
And
it is
knowing that it's
important.
different for different people.
Hmm.
I'm so grateful for the woman who taught me what she taught me. I
Hmm.
learned a lot from her when I very first started eating this way. But she also was very much it has to be this way for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're saying that spinach is making you feel bloated, like it's just spinach. So, you have to do it anyway. Eat when you're not hungry. Don't eat when you
Hmm.
like it was just very scheduled, even if because she was teaching me about intermittent fasting as well. So even if you're not hungry at this time, you still need to eat.
Hmm.
And so I, like drifted away from that, which was so much better because it's not a one size fits all type of thing. I
Hmm.
do really well when I just eat one meal a day. That's when I feel my absolute best. If I eat just maybe a snack and one meal and then go like 20 hours without eating, I'm not starving myself. I don't feel like I'm forcing myself to not eat. I'm just listening to my body. But with all six of us having four kids and then my husband and I eating the way that we eat, it really does show exactly what you were saying about how everybody's body responds differently to different things because we have like two of our kids are just like how my husband is, where they can have a little bit a higher carb
Hmm.
count, and they're perfectly fine. So they fall more into the, if they just eat low carb, they're good, you know.
Hmm.
And then myself and then two of our other two kids, we're more like we need to be in the keto carnivore realm, because if we have more almond flour type stuff and the high, you know, just higher carbs, even if it's still low carb, but it's still more than the ketovore, whatever, uh, we react badly to it. I mean, it messes with our sleep, the way that we think and concentrate, how well we can pay attention.
Hmm.
So it is just, so we just find our balance. The food that we make is all low carb, but some people have more cheese, some people have less, some people have almond flour crackers, some people have none. You know, we just go off of, it's all a trial and error thing, I think.
Hmm.
Just how does this make your body feel? Now you know you need to have a little bit of that or none at all, and we just kind of go from there.
Yeah. 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 No, that makes sense. Like you say, and that's a perfect example of what you're talking about is that, if someone does say to you, hey, look, this is how it has to be done. You have to eat this much in a day and this at these times and all that, then I'm sure most people like that have good intentions, right? But they're, being that kind of how should I say, trying to be that structured with something like keto or ketovore or carnivore. It's just not the way anybody works. Like,
Yeah,
maybe that's the way that person feels their best. And maybe that's the way some other people would feel their best. But like you say, if you've got six people, well, chances are you're going to have multiple different ways that people have to land on that spectrum,
yeah,
and that's why I like to, I've gotten away from the whole keto and all that, talking about keto and getting into more of Dr. Barry's sort of wording on it, just in the proper human diet spectrum, right? Because
yeah,
anyone can thrive at any point on that spectrum. You just have to figure out where that point is, and then
yeah,
unfortunately, it's some people can adjust and get a little further away from carnivore or keto as they get through their journey and heal their body and all that. But some people can't. Some people just can't stray away from what makes them feel their best.
yeah.
And to me, that's what's really really important. If
Yes, that's what
if
it
you
is for
feel
me.
like
I like,
crap, it's not worth it.
yeah, I have like
Yeah.
zero intention of ever eating, even on days that we have, like if there are times that my husband and I have like junk type nights or whatever, it's
Hmm.
still low carb stuff. Like it's just, I don't know, when you know I mean, even like taking the medical conditions out of it, knowing that it just makes your body feel like crap and you're going to wake up the next morning feeling hungover just because of something that you ate, that is
Hmm.
not worth it. But then when there's a medical thing to it, I think it just makes it so much easier to stay on track, because it's like, I don't ever want to go back to the way that I used to feel. I still have struggles with the medical conditions that I have. I mean, I don't know if it will ever just completely go away from the way that I eat, but it's at least better. I mean, I used to, walking through the house, I had to be close to a wall so I could hold on to it because the dizziness was so bad and I would pass out very frequently. I slept a lot. It was really bad. I still have fatigue. I still have dizziness. I still pass out sometimes, but it's not like it was. So if my option is have it less often and feel better in the, in between,
Hmm.
or all the time again and just feel like crap all the time, no, I don't ever want to go back to that. So, and hopefully we're helping, like, put this, like, really have this built in for our kids so that they they know that they can. I hope that it will help kind of save them, avoid them from having to go through any type of medical issues, heart issues or nervous system or diabetes or whatever it might be.
Hmm.
Hopefully this just is built in, and I hope they don't want to eat any other way either. That's my hope.
Sure. And like you say, all you can really do is show them the options, and they will. I think everybody that changes their lifestyle to a lower carb lifestyle quickly realizes how much it can change how you feel. Like the one thing I've always sort of told people is that, you know, you may think you feel all right, and you may think you feel good now, but until you change your lifestyle, you'll never, realize just how bad you actually felt.
Yeah.
Until you start feeling good. Like I would never trade it back for the way I used to feel now, knowing, how I can feel after
Yes.
doing this for
It's
five and a
one of
half
those
years.
you have to know for yourself to really know. Like I can tell people all day long how great you're going to feel, and when they talk about, "Oh, I have this problem or that problem," like you just want to be so badly like, if you just eat this way,
Hmm.
just try it and see. And it's sad cuz so many people are I was one of those people, hesitant or just like so dismissive, like I'm not
Hmm.
going to do that. Or I know some people, as sad as this is to say, some people have a really big like victim mentality. That's like what defines them is the stuff that's wrong with them. So then it's like, well, what am I going to complain about? I need to have something to complain about. So they kind of want to stay in their not so great state. But then also you have
Hmm.
the people who just maybe they just don't believe it. Like, okay, so what if I just change a few of my foods all of a sudden I'm gonna feel so great? And it's like, yeah,
Hmm.
you are.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard to
Yeah.
believe. So I definitely think it's one of those you have to do it. I feel like, and this is more in connection with the type of stuff I talk about on my channel, but I think it's also the same type of one of those analogies. An example of this is that like living life with Jesus, that people can be like, I am happy. I'm happy. I have an awesome life. Like, everything's so great. And just like what you were saying, people can say that about how they feel. Like, I already feel good. I feel fine. Things aren't so bad. But it's like, yeah, but if you had that life with Jesus, or if you started to eat this certain way, you'll really know that it gets even better. Like, it can be so much better. We can feel so much better. And
Hmm.
it's just really, my husband was one of those also, don't cut things out. He loves sweets. He has a sweet tooth like nobody's business. He always had
Hmm.
candy bars. He always had ice cream. I mean, that stuff was just always in the house because he had to have it.
Hmm.
And so I was the one who started to eat this way first. And then so many people were like, you need to tell your husband to change the way he eats too. You need to do this. You need to do that. And I'm just not one of those people.
Hmm.
I'm not one of those wives that's like naggy and you need to change this. Like, he's a grown man and he'll see what it's doing to me. And if he wants to start changing things, then he can. And I'm not going to tell him how to eat. So I started to change things, and then our two kids who also have some medical stuff. My husband was like, "Hey, maybe those two should start eating this way, like you do, and see if it helps them. Let's just see what happens." So
Hmm.
those two started eating like I was eating, and it started to help them. And then he started to just research stuff. He started to watch Dr. Kinberry videos and Dr. Berg videos and Dr. Boz videos. And then we started watching the what's his name? Bobby Parrish. You know what I'm talking about? Who like
Oh
goes
yeah.
over the ingredients. Yeah.
Hmm.
So then
Yeah.
he started watching those and he's like, oh my gosh, we all need to change how we eat. Cause like, do you know
Hmm.
what this does? Do you know what this is? And then he started teaching me things about ingredients and how bad stuff was. So now when we go, that's just, we only eat stuff that is low carb, low sugar, and then even the things that count as keto that we used to get, like we used to get a lot of Quest stuff. We used to get a lot of, oh crap, I can't think of the names of a lot of things, but just because it was like keto on the
Or the
box.
perfect keto stuff
Yeah.
and all that.
So we
Yeah.
would look at it, we would look at the carbs and the fiber and the amount of sugar, and we're like, oh yeah, okay, so this stuff is fine. But then it still kind of made us feel kind of crappy. But
Hmm.
then when we started digging into the actual ingredients of things, and we're like, oh my gosh, yeah, from the surface, it looks real great, keto, and like this is still good. You're still going to be healthy. But when we start looking at the actual ingredients, we're like, oh my gosh, this is terrible now that we actually know what this stuff is.
Hmm.
So we still eat that stuff every once in a while, but it's just very rare. And I don't know, it's just once you know something and you actually know what's inside of that food and what that's going to do to my body and how it's not even actual food at all, it makes it a lot easier to be like, I don't really want that.
Yeah,
It's not real
absolutely.
food.
Yeah. And I think that's a very common thing with most people that sort of transition to a keto lifestyle. Like there are a lot of people now, especially that sort of start off listening to someone like Dr. Barry or Dr. Boz or some of the bigger voices in the space these days. Uh, they start off different than like I did and some other people did 5, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, where it was more just shift from the Doritos to the Quest chips,
Yeah.
like, and it was more, I think we all wind up in the same space, just like you say, you try and change or replace the things that you liked with keto products, and then eventually you learn, oh well, okay, they taste good and all that, but they're probably not still the best thing for you.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do eventually come to that realization, and then they, a perfect example for myself is when I first started keto, uh, mayonnaise, even still like store bought mayonnaise, was still on my acceptable list of things to have all the time, and I ate a lot of it still. But then you start learning about, okay, well, even if it's avocado oil mayonnaise, well, it's just usually mostly canola oil, and like then you
Yeah.
start learning about different things, and then you're like, oh well, okay, so I guess I need to start making my own mayo now too, right?
Yeah.
So
Uh,
yeah,
you
it's
have a
you're right.
mayonnaise video, right?
Oh yeah, I've got a
Didn't you?
couple of them. Yeah,
Okay, I need to watch them. I tried to make my own mayonnaise and it was so watery. I need to watch
yeah,
yours. Try
yeah.
again.
There's a couple of different ones with like avocado oil or making it with butter too. The butter one's
Ooh,
pretty
okay.
good. But yeah, I think like you were saying is once you learn or once you actually realize that, if you start paying attention to ingredients lists and start to learn what things like maltodextrin is and, all this stuff that, may sound innocuous, it's really just not that good for you, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard to avoid, right? It's basically in everything.
Yeah. I think the process, I think that, which, I mean, people who can just all of a sudden completely change how they eat, that's awesome for them. And some,
Hmm.
they're like some type of special breed. I don't know. But I think that even though it's still putting not so great things in your body for a while, I think the process is really helpful because we're learning so much. And it's instead of just being like, I don't know, I'm just really big on learning. So I feel like
Hmm.
it's cool to um, figure it out for yourself and to actually
Hmm.
feel it. So if somebody's saying, don't eat this, it's going to make you feel like crap, um, or I don't know, somebody just instead of someone telling you, you learning it for yourself. So
Hmm.
I think it makes it easier to stick to when you figure it out for yourself as well. Instead of just someone told me to do it, so I'm going to do it. Sometimes we're like, kind of, there's a lot of pushback sometimes when
Hmm.
someone's telling us to. So we want to be like, no, I'm going to do it a different way sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh, but when we're like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm eating these, I cannot we had all kinds of things that we used to get Husky or something like that. Maybe that's another brand that was keto. Anyway, we were getting all kinds of keto stuff but it just slowly fades out. We just keep slowly improving and getting better. And
Hmm.
so I think that even though it takes it longer to get to the really good point, there's a lot of benefit in the time that it has taken to get to the really good point because we're learning so much and figuring it all out on our own. And then it
Mhm.
makes it easier to stick to, because it's like, now I know for sure, because of my own experience, because I figured it out myself and walked through it myself. I know that that's not good, and that's, not the way I want to go. So then you
Mhm.
just stick with it for life, and it's just your lifestyle. It's not like some special diet you're on, or people think it's weird because, like, oh, are you allowed to have this, or you cut this out, you cut that out. Like, it's just the way that we live. I mean, I don't know. I think some
Yeah.
people pay a little too much attention to, like, you shouldn't eat
Sure.
that way, it's so bad, and you're gonna have a
Yeah.
heart attack. Like, I'm probably not
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
die from a heart attack.
Yeah. That's the one, like that, what you said about, people saying, oh, you can't have that on this diet. And, I've had lots of people, I've had that exact, phrase said to me so many times. Oh, you can't have this. I'm like, no, I can have whatever I want. Like, I'm
Yeah,
a 50-year-old adult. I can do whatever I want. This is what I choose to do, and I choose not to eat that food. Like,
yeah,
that's just because, and that's what's, I think the population is starting to shift a little bit. I feel, where people are realizing that, demonizing healthy lifestyles as a diet just doesn't make any sense,
mm-mm.
right? Like, eating real whole one ingredient foods, that's the way we used to live.
I know.
But now it's the odd thing to do, right?
Yeah,
Like, it's just, if you only eat, meat and vegetables, even, you're just strange.
yeah,
Like, well, what do you mean you don't eat pizza? What do you mean you don't eat pasta all the time? Like, it's just, unfortunately, and it can go back to, some of the medical profession out there sort of bought into some poor studies that were done, and it kind of shifted things in the wrong direction for a while. But I think ultimately, things, at least the awareness of ingredients, is starting to shift a little bit. So there's,
I hope so.
there's a good parts going on. There's still some tribalism going on in the diet world between carnivores, and I don't know. I just like be out there having fun and doing what I can, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah. So I guess another big part of your channel is sort of exercise as well. You like to include a lot of that in your
yeah.
your kind of content. So do you have any background in fitness, or is it just something you feel
Not.
benefits?
I don't have any, like, I never finished those classes. I went more towards the way that we eat, and the mental health part of it, I guess, which is why so much
Mhm.
of my channel is about that type of stuff. Like, um, I could talk more about food and fitness and all that kind of stuff, but just in my experience working with, um, so working at a weight loss clinic, and then also doing it independently myself as a coach, just working one on one with people. So much of the struggle is the, like, breaking habits, or um, just basically getting through the stuff that we struggle with ourselves, the
Mhm.
food addictions, or why we're doing that, really getting to the mind part of it, the emotion part of it. That's why I talk about that so much on my channel, because it connects so much with the way that we eat. And but yeah, so I do like to have some of the food stuff in the shorts, and I like to have the workout stuff just because I know the benefit, so many benefits in exercise, and that it just helps a lot with our health, our hearts and our bones and muscles and our mind. It helps a lot with our minds. And um so I like to have, yeah, I like to have that stuff on there a lot
Mhm.
too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is important to have some sort of balance between like I guess the mental and physical part of it. Um, I need to do more targeted work at working out myself. Like I keep using the excuse that, I basically walk all day and I do physical work for my job every day. So I don't sort of focus on doing the physical, like directed physical activities kind of thing. But I think you're right though. It's so much of it starts in our heads, right? Like if you can't get that straight first, the physical part of it is always going to be harder.
Yeah. Yeah, the decision making, like, and then stopping to ask why.
Hmm.
Always, I would, my coaching priorities and goals. That's just like always something that's super important, and always asking yourself why. Even if not even just why am I doing this? Why did I start this lifestyle, or why did I want to start doing this? But even when you are wanting to do something that isn't the greatest, like, why do I want to eat late at night all the time? Or how come
Hmm.
I'm not hungry right now, but I really want to eat. And then just stopping yourself to ask why, like, why? Why is it?
Hmm.
And then try to make the connections. Oh, I just got off of a really irritating phone call, or something really exciting is coming up. So, okay, now I know there's a connection between my anxiety and I want to eat. So then trying to figure out what's something better that I can do, write, journal, color, I don't know, all just different things to just to try to catch that type of stuff. It helps a lot. That's
Hmm.
one of my biggest things is the snacking, and watching that ham and Swiss thing last night did not help. It looks so good.
Mm. Yeah, you're right. There's so much connection between our emotional feelings and how we translate that into our cravings. Like you say, like it's if you're having a really bad day and you get home and it's like, okay, well, and most of us, the first thing we do is, open the fridge and like, okay, well, what can I eat that's going to make me feel better?
Yeah.
And I don't think I don't, I think if someone says, well, that never bothers me, they're probably not being honest with themselves. Like I think that's
Yeah.
something that is always going to be there. But like you say, it's how you react to it and how you manage those feelings is what's going to ultimately determine whether or not you can succeed and stay on course with a different lifestyle for sure.
Yeah. And doing it in finding the line between doing it in a way that works best for you, because you have the like stuff we were talking about before with everybody's body isn't going to react the same to eating certain foods. And I think actually I know the same is true with um, exercise. Some people, in order to get whatever type of result they're wanting, they go like 5 or 6 days a week. My body, I'm assuming um, because of the like autonomic nervous system stuff and how ridiculously sensitive I am to any type of increased cortisol, I have to have uh, a decent amount of like rest days or
Hmm.
rest time. So you have some people who do their results are so much better when they work out like 2 days a week only, one or two good workouts a week. And other people are like, 5 or 6 really good workouts a week. And that's how they get their stuff. So it's so very individualized. But then also understanding the difference because I know I've heard many clients use this like, well, that works for that person, but it doesn't work for me. And they almost use it as an excuse to overeat or to eat something that's very unhealthy.
Hmm.
So to know that, okay, yeah, we are all different, that a certain amount of carbs, a little more carbs for you, less vegetables for me, whatever. But we're all still, doing the healthier thing versus somebody
Hmm.
being like, I need to have the Big Mac before I go hiking, or else I'm not going to hike well. I'm not going to have the energy I need for the hike. Does this make sense what
Hmm.
I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Trying to find the balance between it is different for all of us, but it doesn't mean that it's like healthy might work for you, but it doesn't work for me. That's just not a thing. I don't feel like I
Yeah.
explained that very well.
Well, I think like I think what it is that we're all at some point guilty of trying to negotiate with ourselves,
Yeah.
saying, okay, you know, I'm going to do this. So, you know, and that was always the problem I had with dieting before I started doing keto is that, and it's also why I don't, um, as a rule, I don't do things like cheat meals or cheat days or anything because I will negotiate with myself because I'll say, hey, you know, I had that pizza or that burger. And, you know, I didn't feel too bad. You know, it didn't really affect me too bad. All that. And so then that'll stay in my head. And then the next time the opportunity comes up, I'll be more likely to do it again, you know, and then it'll happen more often. And that's when
Yeah.
things go wrong again. Right. So I think, yeah, it's, I know what you're saying. It's a little, you know, it is complicated for sure, but I think we're all guilty of it. And it's a matter of how we manage it. You know,
Yeah.
it's managing that connection between our brains and our mouths is
It's
it's
really
tricky.
hard
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, for sure. So, okay, well, getting to your sort of YouTube channel, where do you see or what are your sort of goals and aspirations for YouTube? Because your channel has done really well lately. Like you're you know it's growing quite well, and you're all over the community. Everybody knows who Kendra is now. So what's your sort of vision for what you'd like to see it turn into?
Uh, well, I don't know. I want it to get better. I know that. Like I want
Hmm.
I want to get better with which I know a lot of this will come I think just with time, like actually like the amount of time that I have and I don't know. Some of it I know is like putting a little bit of money in like to have a good setup and the house that we're in is really old and we are like trying to remodel certain parts. So even trying to find a good spot, like just with a decent background that doesn't have like old wood paneling or
Hmm.
something like that in the background. Um, so even just having a nicer looking setup is something that I would like to do, but I want to, I don't know. This question shouldn't be this hard. I know for sure I want to keep encouraging people. Like that is my number one thing. I just want to encourage people and motivate them in some type of healthful way. Um,
Hmm.
and so my hope is that it will continue to grow. I want it to grow, but for a genuine reason. I don't want it to be like, oh, this is a a trendy
Hmm.
thing that's going around on YouTube right now. So I just became, I went viral because I did this trendy thing. I don't want that as much as I want the channel to grow and blow up. I want it to be
Hmm.
for genuine reasons and for a reason that is actually helpful for people. And I'm not saying anything bad about the people who do their channels do blow up that way. I think that's awesome for them, but at least for mine, I just want to keep it just very real and helpful, hopefully.
Hmm.
Um, and I want to do, I don't know, I think I'm kind of leaning more towards like the exact setup that you have, where it's almost like a podcast type of looking setup, more
Hmm.
professional. Just, I think I would like to do something like that. And, and then I definitely want a store. I want a store so bad. I have a notebook of all kinds of things that I want. At some point, my husband and I are gonna. I don't. We're gonna look and see what maybe good programs there are for like shirt designs. I don't know if
Hmm.
Canva does that. Maybe I have a Canva account. Maybe I should look on there. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
there's tons of options out there for it. Like I have to look into it as well because you're right.
yeah,
It's just a logical next step if there's something that you can offer out there. It's just exhausting sometimes. So how many options there are there out there? You know, like I've been getting things like the wristbands done
oh yeah,
cheaply online and stuff like that. But then when you try and start getting into selling things, it's a whole nother aspect of it that,
Yeah.
I know nothing about it as well. So I have to try and figure it out too. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I want that to go. And I guess sometimes I don't know, maybe you could get your feedback on this just to see, just to help maybe make my decision on things. But I want to find a way somehow to like put some type of encouragement out there for anybody who does. I don't know. Okay, I will tell you. The struggle with this is that I know everybody has something, usually,
Mhm.
even if you don't have like an actual medical diagnosis, even if it's just something that you battle with yourself, like you are anxious about things or you're always high stressed or rushing all the time. Um, so I want the encouragement to be for everyone. But then as far as the like people who do have medical type of things, um, maybe working something in there about the way that like how we eat
Mhm.
and just how much it can help. Because I feel like I don't know if you know anything about like dysautonomia stuff or autonomic nervous system type of medical things like what I have, but it pretty much affects everything. So
Mhm.
I guess I feel like the encouragement could be for like maybe somebody doesn't have the exact same things I'm diagnosed with, but the stuff I'm diagnosed with affects um, your heart, your brain, like all of my nervous system, my joints, brain fog, all these different variety of things. And I guess just to try to encourage, just to I don't know, I don't even know what it is. That's why I can't decide. Get just to help show people that eating this way, it does help with all of these little things.
Sure.
Even our hair, like my hair is thicker now, my skin is better now,
Mhm.
and I
Well,
just don't know.
yeah, I think it comes back to, again, I've never run into any sort of medical issues. Thankfully, like I
Yes,
was out of shape and I needed to lose weight and everything. And I did that. I didn't even start YouTube until 2 years into keto. So I'd gone through all of that, and I started my YouTube channel just because I learned enough, or I learned so much that that's what I wanted to try and offer to anyone that wanted to listen, is what I learned. And that's also why I do interviews with uh, people like yourself, because again, every single conversation that we have on YouTube is going to bring information to someone else, right? I've had people on with type 1 diabetes, and people with MS, and like, so there's such a spectrum. But I think, again, going back to why you're doing YouTube, which I think is, it sounds to me like it's the the real reason to do something like this is to try and help others, right? And I think that's when we will realize any kind of success here, is when you focus on doing everything you can to help someone else out there. And even if it's just one person, like, that's really all that matters, right?
yeah,
But as far as sort of your question, what you could do, like, I think, you have a story to tell, what you've gone through, what you've done to help your medical conditions and all that. And I think you're probably would be a good idea just to try and sit down and, even if it was in shorter videos, and it can be, once a month, once every couple of weeks or whatever, you can say, this is what I do. This is how I eat to manage these conditions. This is how this has helped this, and so on. Right. Like, I'm definitely no sort of expert on any of this. And ultimately, when I've tried to sit down and do videos like that, they just turn into a hot mess. But, and I've done a few motivational type videos and all that. And what I've learned is that, for the most part, it's not what I'm good at. So I try and stick to interviews, live streams, and then my weekly, you know, cheesy ham recipes kind of thing. So, and
I think you might be
that.
better at it than you think, because the live that you did about, oh crap, what was the live? It was like maybe two live streams 2 Thursdays ago.
Mhm.
Um, there were some things that you were saying in there that it really was very helpful. My gosh, in that moment, I was just like, oh my gosh, I needed to hear this so much. Like it was so encouraging to me.
Sure.
And you just said it just plain
Mhm.
and this is what it was, and it really was so helpful. So I think you're
Yeah,
better at
and
that than you
yeah.
think.
Well, the funny thing is that I'm a lot better at it in that kind of format as part of a live stream.
Oh
It's
yeah, like
weird.
in the moment.
Yeah, like if I sit down in front of my camera here and yeah, even if I have a clear thought in my head what I want to talk about, it's really hard for me to come across and deliver it in a way that people even really want to watch, kind of thing. So that's why I try and stick to more things like live streams, and because I think it's easier, especially when you're interacting with
Yeah.
people that are watching. And again, I've been doing. I started YouTube, or when I started with doing interviews like this. Like this is sort of where I got used to doing talking to a camera. Like I obviously, and I'm sure you were the same way. The first few times you do it, it's like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I talking to a camera and that? But it gets easier over time. But I thought recording interviews was a way to get used to doing this kind of thing without, you know, and it is easier if you're actually talking to someone. So, but that's again, I think it would be beneficial for yourself and for your community, all of your followers, to hear, on a regular basis how things are helping your conditions. And there's no, I think about this sometimes too, thinking, okay, well, I do a lot of the same things every week, but then we've got new people watching every week too,
Yeah.
right? So it's worth doing more than once, in my opinion. So.
Yeah. And then maybe I guess also some type of encouragement for when we do have limitations. I guess that's also something
Mhm.
else I wanted to put out there, because like eating this way, it's not like, oh my gosh, I'm magically completely healed of all the, medical stuff that I have. Like there are
Mhm.
still limitations, and there are like this time of year, summer is the hardest, which
Mhm.
sucks because everyone's like, let's go to here, let's go there, and then we try to go out and do stuff, and then we have to come home early because I'm like passing
Yeah,
out. I feel
sure.
like I'm ruining all the fun. But I guess, okay, yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm like thinking out loud. You're helping me work
Mhm.
through this. Like,
Yeah,
okay, I can have stuff about that it's okay to limit and to live in
sure.
your boundaries or whatever that you might have. Okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think ultimately it's all about sharing your experiences, because someone is going to relate to it, right? There
Yeah,
may be lots of people watching. And that's the thing too. We have to remember that most of the people that we're interacting with at live streams and premieres and all this kind of stuff are typically the same people all the
mm,
time. But there's also a lot of people that are watching that we never actually interact with, right?
yeah,
But if that one video helps someone that's anonymous behind the scenes, well, it's still worth doing.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's really, I definitely think that is a key thing to make sure that what we're talking about is something that we've experienced somehow or know somehow.
Mhm.
That's what I think it's super important to say, like, when we face these types of challenges, or when we go through these things, I always make it a point to say that, instead of being like you did this and you did that, so this is what you need to do. Because it
Mhm.
just, I don't know, I feel like it has like a disconnect. Like I go through this
Sure.
crap too, and other people, just to stay relatable and genuine. It's just super important, I think, to
Mhm.
do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I've said to you before too, like a couple of weeks ago, like when I watch the videos that you do, it comes across as, you're sincerely trying to help people, and it's because there's a lot of people out there with motivations for why they're doing things that aren't sincere. And you can tell usually, but I can tell from what I've seen out of your content, even all like some of the fun stuff you do, like the skits and all that, like you can tell that you're even when you're having fun with it, you're trying to help in any way that you can. So
Yeah.
it's definitely, I think you're on the right track with that for sure. So, I
Thanks.
think we're all doing pretty good on this YouTube thing here. So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Well, I won't take up too much more of your time here. Usually I'd like to, finish off these conversations with just, if you were to go back to when you were first started changing your lifestyle and all this, if you were to uh, run into someone getting to that point now, sort of what kind of advice would you give to someone that's just starting out now?
I would tell them that listening to your body is very important because there are a lot of different levels, I guess, of low carb.
Hmm.
And also to just keep digging, like keep doing some digging. So just like how my husband and I, the more we watched Dr. Ken Berry stuff and that Bobby Parrish guy to really learn about what ingredients are,
Hmm.
uh, I would say to do that and then apply what you're learning. So if you learn something if you're listening to someone that's talking about 100% total carnivore, this is how it's going to help you, try it, just apply it and see how it works. And is your body responding well to that? Or do you feel like you need to add a little more vegetables? Or do you feel like, um, I feel like learning and applying, trial and error, and eventually, the bumpy road will start to smooth out. That is probably the advice that I would give, but I think it's just helpful to have a good understanding of why you're doing what you're doing. Like if somebody's like, why do you eat low carb? You actually can have a good, solid answer because how it's actually what it's doing inside of your body. So
Hmm.
just really keeping yourself educated and standing firm, try to not care when people look at you weird, like really, like why are you eating that way or whatever, just for my health, I eat this way for my health or for whatever the reason is. So I guess
Sure.
that would be my stuff.
Yeah. No, that's good advice. Yeah. The whole why part of doing things is always been my biggest thing too. Like if you have a specific reason why you want to change your lifestyle, it makes it a lot easier to focus on it and
Yep.
to keep doing it and all that. And until you figure that out, and it is, I think, important to figure that out before you start making a change because that'll just make it that much easier to continue with it. So
Yeah, and having a bad day or an off day doesn't necessarily have to mean I can't do
hmm.
this isn't sustainable for me. It just means that it's an adjustment, you're going to fall back and fall back, but the
Hmm.
more the more we do it, the less we tend to fall backwards. We just kind of keep on going. So it's a process is
Hmm.
something else I would say. So yeah.
For sure. Absolutely. Okay. Well, that was a good conversation. It's thank you for coming on here and doing this. I know I have mentioned that we were going to do this interview to a few people, and they're excited to see it. So, thanks
Yay.
for agreeing to do this, and hope we continue to be successful in our lifestyles and our YouTube channels and everything else. And
Yes. And I'm so happy
so,
you laughed. This was a goal of mine that I didn't tell anybody. I'm like, I will make Jason laugh. And as soon as I said that thing about how I love cheese, you actually laughed. I was like, yes,
mhm. Yeah.
success.